Hello and welcome to CLEA'S World. Today, I'll be sharing with you more information I received from source during my last BQH hypnosis session. I will read from a transcript of the session, and when I refer to Lorrayne, I'm speaking of my practitioner who's asking me questions I prepared for the session. And when I refer to me, I'm speaking of myself under hypnosis, which means the answers are coming from source. And without further ado, let's jump in. Lorrayne. This is a question from Gil Chan. Hello, Gil. What percentage of the essences left on this planet, 3.5 million, are doing this work consciously? And for those who aren't or are not getting this information in 3D, are they expecting something to happen too, or just happy-go-lucky preparing for their retirement? Now, Source did mention this question in the beginning of the session, so that would have been the first or second video I did. But here is a short answer to this question. Yeah, so I answered most of this. The only thing that's missing is 3%. Only 3% who are left here are actually doing this work consciously. So I did a little math here, and 3% of 3.5 million people is about 105,000 people, which is a lot of us doing this type of work. I know the transformation I've gone through in the last several months. I know you have as well, especially if you're watching this channel. And so not because this channel is special, but because I know we've been doing this work consciously and also spoken about it among ourselves, which accelerates things, which was the point of having this channel in the first place. And so I know that this is one of the main reasons we got into this point. In the initial message also, Source said that the rest of the people who are not doing this work consciously, yes, they are planning for retirement and being happy-go-lucky about everything. Of course, they might not know consciously that we're basically, a takedown time pretty much, but they're living through their life basically in a normal way. Lorrayne. Thank you. Okay, next question. So we are here waiting for everyone to come to grips with the fact that everyone else is gone. But it seems that the momentum for this to happen has died. In my personal experience, for example, she's reading a question on my behalf. So as Clea, I'm the one who wrote this. So I'm saying in my personal experience, and I am one. So this is the energy we're all working with. I used to be painfully aware that everyone is an NPC, and now I almost never think about it anymore because it doesn't matter since we're stuck here, so there is no benefit to remembering that continuously. It's as if I'm resigned to being in the game. So I continue pretending, even though I know I am pretending. Since the ones that are not wanting to concede the truth of what is going on are conscious about it, but are telling themselves that they are crazy, why would they have to admit it now? There was a time to strike when the pain of the situation was vivid, but that time is past. And as resistance has waned, we are going with the flow. So what would be the impulse now to do such a drastic thing? Just like I'm resigned to being here for the rest of my natural life, why would they have the desire to let go of the last bit of resistance at this point and openly admit, my daughter is an NPC? And when that resistance is fully gone, then there is really no need to do anything but stay here even longer, since who cares at that point? This all seems just like a silly game we're playing when there is really no urgency and no timeline. So we could be here forever. And I was saying this because I'm trying to understand, do I need to resign myself to staying here for the rest of my natural life? Because as you guys know by now, I like to play devil's advocate. All right, so here is the answer. Yeah. So while there is no urgency, no timeline, we already said we really don't want to see all the NPCs break down around us. So we will at some point be satisfied and say, okay, weighing the options and be like, okay, it's really not worth doing this anymore. So we will be satisfied, but there is no urgency. We already said there is no timeline. We already said there was no urgency. We said the only reason we're running against time, quote unquote, is because of this issue where we don't want to see our loved ones pass away. There is no more resistance. The resistance is virtually gone, even for the people that are not admitting it as in, yes, I believe it. The fact is, it's not a belief anymore. It's an accepted reality. It is known. Even the people that might not verbalize it, who have been doing this work consciously, it is unknown now. We always said it wasn't a matter of listening to Clea's channel. It wasn't a matter of listening to Clea's channeling this information. We all knew we would get to this point, the people that decided to do this work consciously, and we are there. We are here. It doesn't matter how you phrase it. If you say you believe it, again, it's not a matter of belief anymore. This is us remembering. This is me remembering myself, which already happened last time. So we're talking about 5 months ago now. We have now moved into a new phase that we didn't realize. We didn't know we were going to allow ourselves the time to live through, which is now we're putting into action the things that we know, that we've learned of. We haven't learned as in we didn't know them before. We have learned of as in we remembered. And so this is, whether somebody admits it consciously or not, this is now again a given reality, and it is shaping our life for the people that have done this. And even, we said earlier, even for the people that have not done this work consciously, their lives have changed. Now, when we say their lives have changed, we don't mean to say they've changed house, they've changed cars or whatever. We do mean that their internal landscape has changed, and therefore they're able, emotionally, they're in a different place. We have said that the resistance is virtually gone. We're beyond that. We've integrated everything. And so now we are just enjoying experimenting, exploring the things that we can do here. Again, within the game, but we are changing things that we weren't planning on changing. In fact, Clea has had dreams about this, and she has questions about this, where she goes, how come my dreams are completely different now? Now you're showing me different things. Before you said that we had these 3 things to do in this particular order, because it was a plan, it was a strategy. But now you see, because we were experiencing things we didn't know we were going to experience, which is the way that everything has worked. We will put things in place even when, we were talking about the takedown, we didn't know what would happen. So now, as we have lived through this experience, we realize, oh my goodness, but this thing that I'm doing now is actually fun. So for example, Claire is having fun with certain aspects of 3D reality that she had no interest in anymore, because she was looking at it in terms of how we used to look. But now she's seen other things happening in 3D reality that she's making happen. And all of a sudden, 3D reality is interesting again. But it's not really reality that's interesting. What is interesting to her is, oh, look how malleable it is. Oh, look what I can make happen. And things are happening. Now, not huge things like all of a sudden she's living in a castle, because we said we still want things to look reasonable or reasonably logic by 3D perspective. If anybody looks from the outside, you're like, yeah, of course, she worked and this happened. But that's not how it works. We know this very well, especially when it comes to Clea. She shared with you all, we have shared how she was doing things exactly as she had done them in the past, and all of a sudden nothing was working. Why? The higher self decided we're not going to do this anymore. Then she has gone through this period where she has done this work. This was the goal. This is what she had set up for herself. Now this has been done. And all of a sudden, here we are at the other end of this project. And she's like, well, since I'm here, why should I not create anything? Let's see. And all of a sudden, things are happening. They have no business happening. So it would be so easy to say from a 3D perspective, well, no, they're not going to happen. But now they are happening. So basically, the resistance is gone. Everyone is aware of it. Things do not feel the same for anyone anymore, anyone who's left here. And no, we're not going to be here forever. She's not going to be here for the rest of her natural life, because again, there will come a point where we'll say, okay, this is enough. We've experienced enough. Also because if you see, as we create more and more, we get to the point where we're like, well, I don't want to stop anymore. What's the point? Just because I'm working in this game? I don't want to work in this game anymore then. We're going to take it down anyway. So let's get rid of it and move to New Earth where I don't have limitations. So you see, but again, we stayed behind. We are still here because we didn't realize we were going to feel this way. We're going to be able to do these things. We mentioned before that the higher self is no longer interested in creating anything new. But since we were here and we were, quote unquote, waiting for some of these aspects to come to grips with things, and we don't mean to sound derogative in any way, to accept certain things, all of a sudden, some of us who had already integrated certain things, already accepted certain things, were like, well, but this is super boring. We already said, Claire used to go to bed and say, this is the best part of the day. This is the most exciting part of the day. I'm going to bed. And finally, I don't have to deal with all this nonsense. She had no interest in anything. You experienced the same thing, Lorrayne. And now we're at the point where we're like, wait, since I'm stuck here anyway, why don't I look to see what I can do? How can I actually find some pleasure here? And all of a sudden, as we started doing this, we're like, well, wait, this is interesting that I can do these things. And we're almost like watching ourselves create stuff, almost like we're magicians, within the limits that we impose on ourselves, of course. We're not levitating just yet. We don't allow ourselves that. but we are changing things where, of course, from a 3D perspective, you can say, yeah, it was A plus B equals C, but we already know that's not how reality works. Nothing works because it was bound to work, because I did A and B, so of course C was going to happen. We know it doesn't matter how many times you do A and B, C does not have to happen. And again, Clea has experienced this firsthand, but now it is. Now you're not even doing A and B so well, and C is still happening. And that's, for example, what Clea is playing with. She goes, how about I skip B altogether and let's see if C happens anyway. Now she's playing with reality, the same way you're playing with reality, Lorrayne. And now, Lorrayne, you're thinking, oh, I can go at this from different perspectives. For example, you're saying, well, the NPC body is acting in certain ways. What can I do? And you're not just in a box of what in the past you would have said, okay, crystals, herbs, whatever it is. Not that there is anything wrong with any of this. Now you're thinking, okay, I can do this piece plus that piece. You're looking at new things. You see, everything is new to us now. This is why we're still here, because this is actually interesting. And as I mentioned earlier, before we started this, we've not had this much fun since the first or second reset. And the source was chuckling. We've not had this much fun since we came here. So that's why we're staying longer. Now, longer still does not mean we're going to be here forever, because there will come a time we are still in the same situation. The NPCs are very much breaking down. Now we're holding them together as much as possible, but they're still leaving. They're leaving in hordes. So eventually it's going to be hard to pretend that everybody's still here. And so we are not going to wait much longer. We're not talking about, again, 20 years or something. But this is how things work. And this actually is very much a case in point. We were asking earlier, how come we found ourselves in a certain situation where we could have changed everything immediately? Because sometimes we cannot foresee the emotions and how things are going to be integrated. And all of a sudden, in the past, things had gotten out of hand, past, quote unquote. Now, in the situation we're in, where it's just us playing, all of a sudden, in the same way, we did not predict certain things would happen, which was the point of this project, to make new things happen. And now we're having fun. And now we're like, oh, this is cool. Let's watch it. Let's hang out for a little bit longer, because we're not really, really suffering. Now, you might be thinking, well, there are people still here waiting to go to New Earth who are still suffering. And yes, there are. But even these people are finding the light in some places now, because again, the information has been integrated. And while we still want to hold on to certain things, a lot of these things have also released. So everyone is in a better place today than they were, for example, a year ago, 2 years ago. It truly has changed. The resistance is gone. So things, even though they might take time, because we like things to take time at a 3D level, because otherwise it will not look real. Even though some things might take time to resolve, they're resolving. Lorrayne. Thank you. Okay, now we're moving to behind the scenes in 3D. And I have not had this section about 3D questions in a while because it was just not interesting, but a couple of things have happened, so I wanted to ask about them. So here's the question. What's going on with Kate Middleton? We know they replace people, so why didn't they just replace her? Is this just a show to entertain the conspiracy theorists? We know that the entire royal family is gone, and the NPCs have been replaced many times. So what is the game we are playing right now with this? Supposedly, Charles has cancer, and Kate does too, as if it's contagious. So now they're promoting, and I can't say this word, but basically it's this thing, but the new kind that starts with an M and ends with RNA. And anyway, they have one of these for cancer, supposedly. Oh, that's what the conspiracy theorists are saying. Or maybe it's already, the information is out. I don't know. I don't keep track of these things. I only see things because every once in a while they come across my screen, mostly in the Telegram group. So thank you guys for letting me know what's going on out there. Me. Yeah. So first of all, of course, we're keeping all of this running. So of course it's fun. It's fun for the people still dealing with this stuff. And he's referring to the NPCs who are on the side of the dark dealing with the stuff. Because what else are they going to do? What other job are they going to get, right? This is what they do. And it's fun for the people in conspiracy circles. It gives them something to do. Look how much fun it's been in the Telegram group, people speculating what's happening. I mean, really, it doesn't matter what's happening, but it's fun, right? There's no judgment. It's like, we got to pass the time. You can watch TV or you can do this, right? Same difference. But yeah, they could have replaced them. They've always replaced them in the past. It is interesting that they're not replacing the characters anymore, because we said this many times, the dark has become much weaker. There aren't enough NPCs to do a lot of these things. It's not that easy to just find a double or multiple doubles like the Queen used to have. We're not in those times anymore. So the system, you can call it an industry, the industry of make-believe, even that is collapsing, just like we were talking about, you know, Facebook collapsing, YouTube collapsing. We're holding them up because we really don't want to see them go and adapt to a whole new system, or worse, have to create a whole new system. That's what's happening. And now they're trying to twist it and say, oh, because now we'll do this new type of shop, basically. And then we'll bring in a new Kate, all restored. They can't do these things. They can't. They could if they just focused on it. But the fact is there are too many loose ends they have to keep up now. And the ends are not matching anymore. Again, we'll just point to what just happened with the boat and the bridge. It was a joke. It was a joke. We could see the explosions. This is and I don't know if I can say this number either, but basically this is no September 11. You don't need that much speculation to see, well, something is very weird here. Do you see? They're not the same industry they were before. They don't have the same might they had before because they're all NPCs. They don't have any intent anymore. The only intent they have is what we require, which is, let's just give us something to make it look like stuff is going on. Completely disinteresting. If Clea hadn't read it in the Telegram group, she wouldn't even be aware of it, and it would be perfectly fine. Because Clea, for example, as the higher self, has no interest in keeping that outside reality in place other than, which is what we are doing. Clea is just one aspect of me. I am doing this. We're just keeping in place the least we need to make it look normal. That's it. That's your proof. And then we all bring in whatever we need to entertain ourselves. And again, there's no judgment. It's not a matter of degree, quantity, or anything like that. This is why I've created it. So it's available to be used if we need to make ourselves feel like, oh, some things are still happening. But we all already agreed. We already are aware. You saw it in the group where we were like, well, of course, nothing's going to come out of it. We already know nothing's going to come out of it. If it had been for, and this is that, I think he's German, and his name is like Santa's name, and the last name is SCHWAB. I don't know if I can say this name. Anyway, we'll call him Santa. If it had been for Santa, who's an NPC, so who cares what he says, already there would have been 18 cyber attacks and 20 different viruses, and we'd all be eating bugs, right? And your source was cracking up. But none of that is happening. And it's not happening because it's boring. We've done that. We are here to experience something new. This is not new. In fact, it's boring, boring, boring. We're not doing this anymore. And this is why we're not bored anymore, because we are doing new things. So we keep some of this. It's like smoke and mirrors. We keep some smoke and mirrors going. So nobody's really paying attention to the fact that we are changing reality. That's what it is. It's almost like a magic trick. Nobody's going to look at this that I'm doing over here because they look at this other thing outside and they think, yeah, we're still in the same place. So same game, still same system, but it isn't. I love the idea of, I like this visual of the sleight of hand, and that's how magic tricks work. It's like they're like, you know, look over here, and meanwhile over here everything else is happening, which is the way that the dark has always played the game of distraction here. So we get it. This is how we have played the game. Lorraine, thank you. So you kind of already answered this, but I'm going to read it anyway. We just had an issue with a probable cyber attack and a bridge collapsing in Baltimore, September 11th style. I know we're trying to keep things the same on the surface, but this is unnecessary since people are not generally expecting this kind of thing to happen normally. So why? Me. Yeah, again, the entertainment for those who do want to use it as such, it's not a big deal. It was a bridge. And again, it's also helpful. For example, for Clea, even though she's saying this, Clea's looking at this and saying, yeah, see, this is more confirmation that they're just lame. And that's what it is. They're not mighty anymore. They're trying to destroy an entire country, for example, in Israel and Palestine, and nothing is really affecting anything. Do you see how nothing is happening? It's not. All of it is like it has no teeth. It has no strength. None of these actions have any concreteness to them, have any consequences to them. Do you see how they're all just floating in air? One thing happened here, one thing happened there, nothing. They even all contradict themselves. Clea made the comment of, they want us to do cryptocurrency, which is another way of destroying us in their minds. And then meanwhile, they're threatening cyber attacks, which discourages people from giving up cash. Do you see? The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. In reality, they don't know. They're all confused. There are a few people trying to run between one thing and the other, trying to make all these agendas move forward, and they are so confused themselves. It's just a little pathetic. It's just a little ridiculous, really, what they're doing. But it's how we want it, right? There doesn't have to be rhyme or reason. It's just for show. So it's okay. And of course, it's great because we don't want to deal with anything actually tragic. So it's fine. None of the tragic things are going to happen anymore. In fact, Claire was thinking about it this morning. She saw something about the 15-minute cities. They're testing them in Oxfordshire. And the first thing that came to her mind is, this is going to fail miserably. And remember, imagine, even Claire was worried about this perhaps a year ago, whenever they started talking about it, because she was saying, look, they're not even missing a beat. They went from the big flu to the 15-minute cities, like nothing happened, almost as if they didn't get kicked in the teeth with the flu, which they did. They lost miserably because their plan was to give the shot to the entire world, kill, like 2/3 of it, if not more, et cetera, et cetera. And they failed, right? They've been stopped. And people are like, I don't even want to wear a mask anymore. And so that failed. They didn't plan that because, again, they're not able to foresee things either. It's always the law of unintended consequences at play, right? And so then they went right into the next thing, and that's failing miserably too. They started putting out cameras, the ULAS camera, I think that's how they're called, I'm not sure. They were all taken down, $3,000 a piece, all taken down. This is normal people doing this. We are done. So really, it's been collapsing. This whole agenda has been collapsing ever since. Truly, the pandemic was the last hooray. And we said this many times. That was it. That was the apex, and that's it. We're not going to have even close to that level of darkness anymore. So now they're doing this joke, this test run. They're trying to do a test run with 15-minute cities in Oxfordshire. It's going to be hilarious to watch. Half the population is going to move, and Source was chuckling, and the other half is going to riot. They're not even going to riot. They're just going to ignore them, and they're going to not pay their tickets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They put up cement blocks and people go move them right in front of everybody else, and everybody goes through. They're having a huge crisis because nobody pays their tickets. They've given over 50,000 tickets in the span of a few months and nobody's paying them. So the system is collapsing. Do you see? Do you see there is nothing to worry about? This is all a joke, and we're only keeping it in place. We're not getting into the extreme of it truly collapsing, because who wants to deal with that? Really, Claire's enjoying dealing with her own world right now. She's doing fun things, happy things. She doesn't even want to hear about these things. So we're keeping it at a level where you hear things, but nothing really bad is happening. That's it. So this is how it is. There's really nothing to look at. If you want to use it as entertainment, absolutely, nothing wrong with that. That's all. This is entertainment. If you still need something to connect you to, okay, this is what's happened. There's nothing happening outside of you. So it doesn't even really matter. It doesn't matter, for example, who wins in the upcoming championship competition, Mr. B or Mr. T. It's the same person, basically. They're all actors anyway, managed by the same people, the same NPCs. Nothing is going to change here. Doesn't matter who wins and what the name on the roll is, what the face of the NPC is. Nothing is going to change because we are not doing things. We are not changing things through the system, even though the system is collapsing. And Claire's referring to the fact that the real estate industry is going through a major upheaval in the United States because everybody's barely hanging on. So it will be quite interesting to see how that plays out. Thank you, as always, for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.